So we were discussing about the different types of fault, and we have covered uh, that stucket fault type, and then the transistor open and short types of fault. Now we'll see the bridging types of fault, and that is due to when we have any short between the two signaling line, it create a bridging type of fault. And bridging types of fault again it divided into the three subcategory. It form a wired end or a dominant or a dominant and or type. Right. So 1 minute. So in a wire and or logic type, it performing the ending of the two input signal, and that ending it will assign to both the output line. Right? It is a wire and logic, and in wire or bridging types called, in which it perform a ORing of these two short line, and this OR logic it assigned to both the destination line A and B, and in dominant either A dominant B or the B dominant A. So when it's have the A dominant B, it assign the signal value of A to the AD as well as the BD, or right. So here if you see this, this is a dominant B. So in which whatever the signal value of AS, it assigned to the this line, as well as due to the sorting and the due to the A dominant B, right, it is also assigned to the another signaling line. So instead of BS, due to this bridging types of fault, that AS will transfer to BD. And when the B dominant A, that means B is assigned to BD as well as B is dominant or A. So this AD is also equal to BS, right? So here AD output will get an wrong output due to this B dominant A fault. And in a dominant also have the ending and ORing logic. So A dominant and B, that means A is dominant or B. So AD is equal to AS, so there is no any error in this AD output. But in the BD, which is the ending of AS and BS, and output it is assigned to BD. Instead of, actually we want BD is equal to BS, right? But due to this sorting, this is a fault. Right? Due to that fault, it can be have the different effect. If depending on the, if they are having any dominant effect, then it produce like that and or logic dominant. So here you can see A dominant or B. So in that case, A is assigned to ID, as well as ORing of AS and BS is assigned to BD. B dominant and A. So A and BS is ending and will assign to AD, as well as BS is directly equal to BD. Similarly, B dominant A or A, right? And here we can see through this different combination of input, or which combination we can check which types of fault, right? So if we applied that AS and BS is equal to 0 and 1, so in an AND wire AND logic, this output is different. So we can see we can detect wire and bridging fault through this test pattern. So here you can see this. These are the different output compared to fault-free output. So we can detect. Now in this case, here we can see this B dominant or A. For any input, you cannot be differentiate the output. So it's not a detectable. IDDQ is also used to detect the that fault, right? So if there is having any bridging fault, it increase this steady state current. Actually, in a CMOS design, steady state current tends to be a zero, but due to that bridging fault, it will increase the steady state current, and we can detect the bridging types of. Fourth types of fault are the delay fault and the crosstalk. So uh, delay fault can detect by passing the test caches with an at an higher speed. Then we can detect the delay fault present in the design or not. Delay fault means some logic gate take the excessive propagation delay, right, and it is not matching our design specification criteria. Suppose if we have a design this circuit, it should work at a maximum propagation delay. It should be less than the 5 nanosecond, right? And due to the excessive delay, so here is the delay of 2, and this delay of 3, and here the delay of 2. So total delay to reach from x2 to the output, it is a maximum delay path. It is called a critical path, and here this path have delay is 7 nanosecond. So it is greater than the our design specification criteria. That means it is having a delay fault, right? So this circuit is operating as desired speed or not, that can be checked through the delay fault model. So when we want to check the delay fault, we have to apply the two test vectors, create a transition along the path with an higher speed. So here this test case vector is applied, and suddenly another test case vector is applied, and with an higher speed, it is to observe the output, how the reflect output is going to change at that speed or not. So that can be found using the delay fault can be detected using the applying the test cases with a test pattern with a higher speed. Delay and glitches can be caused by the crosstalk between the interconnect. That crosstalk affect the delay as well as the glitches. You know, anyone knows the what is the glitch in the digital design? So glitch is unnecessary transition in the design, right? Unnecessary transition due to the delay. It have a the glitching effect. Right? So any unnecessary transition from the logic 0 to logic 1 or 1 to 0 due to the delay, it is called a glitch. It is called a glitch. And we know in a CMOS based design that power dissipation is due to only the dynamic power dissipation. So whenever having any transition in a logic, then it dissipates the power. So the glitch, it not only the affect the our output, but also will increase the power dissipation in the design. So it is an undesirable transition in the design due to the delay. It is called a glitch. Right? That crosstalk may occur due to the induction and the capacitive effect. So between the two lines have the capacitive may affect the signal value. Suppose this line have the high strength signal value, may it will affect the another line signal value. So it create a crosstalk between the two signaling lines. Fifth one, it is a pattern sensitivity and coupling fault. Right. So it is occur for the high density RAM, commonly in a high density RAM. And pattern sensitivity fault means the contents of the memory cell is affected by the contents of the neighboring cells. So suppose any high density memory is there, and this have some content is already stored, right? Now we are writing the another content with the in its neighboring cell. and that content, if will affect the already stored the neighboring cell content, it is called a pattern sensitivity fault. Right? So it is occurred normally in a high density RAM. And what is a pattern sensitivity fault? It is a content of memory cell is affected by the contents of the neighboring cell. It is called a pattern sensitivity fault. Coupling faults. So transition in in the contents of the one memory cell cause the change in content of the another memory cell. Sorry. So whatever I explained, it is related to the coupling faults. So once we do the transition, either writing or reading the one memory cell, if the another memory cell, neighboring memory cell is affected due to that, it is called a coupling faults. Now the fault for any analog circuit. So whatever we have discussed till now, all the faults are applicable for a digital design, like a stuck-at fault. It is for totally for the digital design. Like so, all the fault which we have explained are mostly applied on a digital design. Now we'll see the fault modeling for the analog circuit design. So in analog circuit, there are two types of fault occur, either the catastrophic faults and another is a parametric fault. So this catastrophic faults is due to the short or open any transistor, right? In analog circuit, you also use the in a design a transistor. So any short or opening any transistor, it is whatever the fault created due to that, it is called a catastrophic faults. And another fault are parametric faults. So parametric fault is due to the variation in the active and passive component value due to the process variation, due to the tolerance range, right? It is called a parametric fault. So in analog design, we know analog design value of the each passive and active component are very much important, right? It do not have any range like in digital design. So it particular value is important. So if we any component values divert from this its particular value, it will affect the performance of the analog circuit. Even if we have used any single resistor or capacitor in design, and that value of that resistor or capacitor is changed from 1 to 1.1 kilo ohm, then also it affect the performance of analog design. So there is no any such a noise margin like in analog design. So any slight variation in component value, it also affect the performance of analog design. So that component value change due to this tolerance range or the process variation, due to the process variation in fabrication. So due to that, it change the performance of analog circuit, and that fault it is called a parametric types of fault. Right? Active component can be sustain the defects that affect the DC or AC component. So we have discussed all the types of the fault model, and among them stuck-at fault model is widely used in a design verifications, right, or testing and verifications. So most of design is prepared as stuck-at fault model of the design, and is the verification try to cover all the stuck-at fault present in the design through the passing the according the test pattern, right? So that task of the design engineer is to prepare a test pattern such a way that minimum test pattern set such a way that it should uh, identify the all possible stuck-at fault in the design. Now we'll see the level of abstraction when we should have to verify the design. So here it taken an example for the same design verification at the two different level, right? So at a high level means at the RTL level verification, and another verification is once we convert the RTL into the gate level netlist, right? So let we see in a high level have few implementation details. So at a higher level, the lower implementation detail are not there. Uh, so fault model based on the effective test generation. So it not generate an effective test pattern that can detect all possible fault present in the design. Right. So here you can see circuit A, right? Same function, right? Same function f is equal to ABC. Mean term present are 1 and 3, 1 and 7, and the don't carry is 3. So if you see it's it's a Karnaugh map. So here it is minimized like 1 and 1. So it's have the two product term, and for that if you implement these two product term, this is circuit, right? And if you want to detect test vectors required are these are the test vector required that can cover all stuck at fault present in this circuit. Now same circuit if we can simplify it by considering this don't care. So it simplified the function is AB into B plus C bar. So for that required this money only these test patterns, and this simplified circuit it look like this. So two circuit of the same specification. Circuit B test vector do not detect the fault for faults present in circuit A. So whatever we have discussed in this chapter, let we see the overview, or first we see the overview of VLSI test technology. So in a VLSI test technology, automatic test equipment ATE, right? It is a automatic test equipment. It is generate a test pattern as well as inside have the that all the functionality required for to test the design as well as the IC. So consist of the first is computer. So for central control and flexible test and measurable for different product, and it also have a pin electronics and fixtures. So what the function of pin electronics and fixture is to apply a test patterns to a pin and sample a response. Apply and it take the sample from the output of DUT. And also ATE inbuilt have test program. So what is the task of test program? Task of test program is to control the timing of test pattern. So when to apply, suppose if you are detecting the delay fault or like that, so what should be the timing? First we apply test pattern, then when to apply the second test pattern, and like that. That is one of the tasks of test programmer, and another task is to compare the response to the non the good response. So whatever the response generated output of the DUT, that is compared in a ATE, and that task has to be done by the test program. So these are the subtasks of the ATE automatic test equipment. It consists of one computer, pin electronics fixer, test program, right? And automatic test pattern generator. Fourth part of ATE is automatic test pattern generator. So task of automatic test pattern generator is it is a one algorithm which generate a sequence of test vectors for a given circuit based on circuit specific model fault model of the circuit, right? So based on the DUT, and from the DUT it prepared a fault model, and based on that fault model it generated test patterns that can detect the all possible faults of the DUT. So that is the task of automatic test pattern generator. So automatic test pattern generator is one of the part of the automatic test equipment, right? And it is a highly costly equipment. Fifth component, or it is a fault simulation. So emulate the fault model in a CUT and apply test vector to determine the fault coverage. So that to determine the fault coverage based on the applied the test vector, and based on the fault model how many fault is detected by the test vector. Based on the fault simulation will simulate and check the coverage of fault coverage. Simulation time is significant, right? because we need to be applied the in terms of the thousand test patterns, right? So to applying each test pattern, it takes based on the simulation, the design, it take the time because it is a complex design and need to be simulate. So simulation time is very much important. So if we reduce the simulation time, it's reduce the overall time of the testing. So significant due to the large number of faults to be emulated by applying the large number of test patterns can be reduced. The simulation time can be reduced by using the parallel, deductive and concurrent fault simulation, and that will study in our chapter 3. These things will study a different simulation techniques will study in our chapter 3. It is in a part of fault simulations, right? So that we have the one complete chapter on that fault and the logic simulation techniques. So in that chapter we'll study detail about all the techniques of fault and simulation, fault and logic simulation. Now in a VLSI test technology, first part is AT, which is automatic test equipment. Second part is a DFT part. Means we need to add in extra hardware that can help us to the testing the design after the manufacturing. So it is called a DFT. So DFT generally incorporate in a design, right? In a design cycle. So design cycle is when it is in a form of the that RTL code, it is called a designing. Right? So once we are converting the specification into RTL code, it is a designing. So it is have incorporate in a design. Goal of the DFT is to improve the controllability and observability of the internal node of the chip or the PCB. Now, what is the controllability and the observability? We'll see that controllability nothing but the how much difficult to set the any internal node within desired logic level. This is called a controllability of the design. And observability is measured in terms of what is the difficulty level to observe any internal node at the primary output. It is called an observability of any in terms of the observability, right? So difficulty it's measured in terms of the controllability and observability, and goal of DFT is to improve the controllability and observability to reduce the difficulty level of the controllability and observability of to set any internal node with the desired logic. That is the goal of any DFT technique. There are three DFT approach, right? One is the ad hoc technique based approach, scan design based approach, and built-in self-test based approach. Right? We know about this technique in an overview, right? And in our second chapter, we are going to study in a detail. In ad hoc DFT techniques, add the internal test points. So in ad hoc DFT technique, it's add the muxes inside the design. Internal test point. So test point can take out internal point can take out using the muxes, right? So if you can use the 2x1 mux, so one line of the 2x1 mux as a normal system data, and another line when we want to test it. So when we make its mode is when we make its selection line as a test mode, it will select the test data as an output, and we can test the internal line. So it will by adding the muxes in the design, we can test the internal point. We can improve the controllability and observability of the internal node. So it is in ad hoc DFT techniques. Another is a scan based design, and it is a widely used the DFT technique in nowadays. Scan based design. The reason is good CAD tool support is available in a scan design, right? We do not need to do on such a complex design manually. Tool itself will help us to convert our design into a scannable design. That's why the scan DFT technique is widely used nowadays in a VLSI design, right? So scan design, what in scan design do? So suppose this is our design, right? So design, mostly design are synchronous, that sequential design. So sequential design have two part, the combinational part and the that flop part which have the registers, right? Either the different D flip-flops. So it convert the flop present in this digital design into a scannable flop. Means this is a simple flop which have the one line is data input, one is clock, and one is output. If we ignore that enable and the reset line, so this is simple D flip-flops. And once we convert this design into the scannable design, it convert all the simple flip-flop into the scannable flip-flop. So in scannable flip-flop, it add 1 2 cross 1 mux before the input of the simple flip-flop. So this part is added, and this will decide we want to operate the design into the normal mode or into the testing mode, right? So this scan mode, the selection line of this 2 cross 1 mux will decide we want to operate as a normal data, means we want to give the input to the flip-flop is DI, which is the normal data when it is operating in normal mode. And when we want to test the design, right, at that time we will make the scan mode is equal to 1, so it will select the QI, which is the previous flop output. QI minus 1, that means it is a previous flop output, right? So in this flop are connected in a that in a sequence manner. So whatever the previous flop output, it is fed to the next flop, and this output of next flop again fed to the next stage flip-flop, and it will make a chain of such flip-flop in the design, and the output of last flip-flop we can see at the primary output, right? So we can see all the internal node logic through this chain of flip-flop, through this chain of such scan flip-flop, and in that way it will help us to check the internal node logic, as well as also we can set, means any particular logic if you want need to be set any internal flip-flop, then also we can set through this scan chain logic, right? So scan design transform the flip-flop in chip into a shift register. It perform create a shift register, and through this shift register we can set any internal node or we can observe any internal node, right? So this scan mode facility shifting in test vector as well as shifting out the response. Means shifting in test vector means to set the internal node with particular logic, so it reduces the difficulty of controllability. And shifting out the response means we can observe the any internal node at the primary output by shifting the data, so it is reduce the observability of the design. So through this scan based design is widely used the DFT techniques, and it convert the simple flip-flop into the scannable flip-flop. So it by adding a small hardware which is the 2 cross 1, and we can make our design a testable design, from simple design to the testable design, right? So that is the beauty of scheme design DFT techniques. Good CAD tool available which can automatic transforming the flip-flops into the shift register, means the scannable flip-flop, as well as the ATPG automatic test pattern generator it available that can be generate the test vector to set the internal node of a scannable DFT design. And third is a boundary scan design. It is widely used in a PCB or it use the that JTAG mode, right, to test the boundary of the design. Only input and outputs of the block is going to be checked. And third is widely used, it is a built-in self-test. So built-in self-test, it's have one advantage and disadvantage compared to the scan design technique. So in a built-in self-test advantage, it can test the design on a runtime. That is the advantage. Not need to stop to run the design or in when it is already installed in a field. So in a normal on mode also it can test the design. So that is advantage of built-in self-test. Another advantage of built-in self-test, inside itself have a test generator module, as well as inside itself have a that is a monitoring module, right? Both the module are inside that, so not need to externally require a TPG to generate a test pattern or to test the design. So in a built-in self-test, name itself suggests it's have the that part which is generator part, and it's have the another part which can be compared the response. So it is a monitor part. Both the part is inbuilt in a built-in self-test design. Now we'll see what a definition of what is the design synthesis. So design synthesis means given an IO functions, input and output relationship of any design, right? Given an IO functions, IO function means a transfer functions, right? So it is relate the input and output. So it is called a IO functions. Develop a procedure to manufacture the device using non-material and process. It is called a design synthesis. Develop a procedure to manufacture a device using non-material and process. Okay? So if you have any process that can implement this transfer function, which relate the input and output, it is called a design synthesis. Now what is the design verifications? So design verification is predictive analysis to ensure that the synthesize the design. Predictive analysis. So whatever the transfer function, if we synthesize and if we implement, it will work proper or not. That is predictive analysis done at the verification. So it is a predictive analysis to ensure that the synthesized design when manufactured will perform the given IO function. So will perform as per the given transfer functions, right? It is called a verification. Now what is the testing? So testing is a manufacturing step that ensure that the physical device, once we have manufactured our design synthesis, and once we convert into the product in chip, then physical device manufactured from the synthesized design, that is manufactured from synthesized design, has no manufacturing defects. So testing will ensure us the manufactured chip will do not have any defect, right? It performs as per the given IO function. That is a testing. Let's see the basic difference which we already gone through, verification and testing. Let me revise very quickly. So verification means verify the correctness of design. That is a verification. Verify the correctness of design. And testing is verify the correctness of the manufactured hardware. Verify the correctness of manufactured hardware. Right? So suppose we want to design a 4-bit counter, right? So first step is we are the specification is 4-bit counter. Then first step is we are implementing this 4-bit counter using the RTL code, means using the VHDL or Verilog. So this is our design. The VHDL code itself called a design, right? Which we have a design the 4-bit counter using VHDL and Verilog. So this RTL is correct as per the specification. If we ensure, it is called a verifications. And once with this RTL is then converted into the gate level netlist through the synthesis, then this gate level netlist is converted into the layout through the physical design, and at the end this layout is manufactured through this fabrication labs through wafer processing, and then it is manufactured thousands of IC in a single lot. So and then we after the manufacture we test each and every IC. We know each IC is only performing the function is same 4-bit counter, right? But in a testing we have to test the manufacturer, each manufactured the device. So each manufacturer IC is going for to testing. So verification have to done one times for one design, but the testing have to be done multiple time as many chip we want to manufacture, right? So that is verify correctness of design, and testing verify the correctness of manufactured hardware, right? And second difference is performed by the simulations. So how we can verify any design? So we simulate the design by passing some test pattern, right? We are applying a test pattern and we'll see what is the output in that, and we'll compare that output with our golden output, and we'll check it is matching as per our desired output or not. So that way we are verifying RTL code or a design. So verification is performed through the simulation, hardware emulation, and the formal method. So in a formal method, it check the functionality, right? What is the functionality of this, and what the functionality we want to implement in our specification. If both the functionality are matched, both that functionality in terms of some modeling, right? Both the functionality are matched, then it is an formal verification. Now, how testing can be done? So testing can have two part testing is done. One is the test generation. So it generates a test pattern for that manufactured that chip. And second part is test application. So it passed that test pattern, and generated output will verify. So that the test application, the electrical test applied to the hardware, right? Third difference is performed once prior to the manufacturing. This is performed prior to manufacture the IC, right? હજી આપણી પાસે design in software માં છે, soft form માં છે. We have design in terms of the RTL or VHDL code. So we have not implemented the design in any hardware. We have not converted into the hardware. So performed once prior to the design. So verification is performed prior to the design, and testing is performed after the manufactured every design. Responsible for the quality of design. So once verification, it is responsible of the quality of design. Means this RTL code which we have written, it is as per the given specification or not, right? So it check the quality of the design, and the that testing, it's responsible of the quality of product, quality of device. Once it's manufactured, right, that this device is working correctly as per the specification or not. So it is responsible for the quality of manufactured device. Testing is responsible for the quality of manufactured device. So in this chapter, we have gone through some basic concept of testing and verification, and the testing and verification at the different VLSI design stage, and then we have gone through a different fault modeling, stucket fault, then short and open and short faults, then bridging faults, and then there are delay faults, and then sensitivity faults. So we have gone through a different fault model, and also we have gone through a different DFT techniques to improve testability of the design, right? So many new testing challenges present today, increasing due to the increasing size and complexity of the VLSI design, and decreasing the future size. So it introduced the probability to have the more defect in the design. So the task and challenge for the VLSI testing engineer, it is have the present. So this chapter we have presented the introduction to VLSI testing. The remaining chapter we will go on through different DFT techniques and the fault and simulation technique. We will study in detail. Any questions so far? Any questions so far? Okay, friends. Let me have another slide. So let me start our next chapter, which is on a DFT, design for testability. So our first chapter is just introduction. So we have introduced everything which we need to be studied for testing and verification, like a test generator and fault modeling, and then DFT, everything. Now our next chapter is on the design for testability. Any questions?